I think if there was one thing that I would want you to know about this episode, um, I think it would be that God knew you. He knew you and he shaped you before you were in your mother's womb. I can't believe I'm saying this, but welcome to episode 1 of The Broken Road to Brave. As you know by now, I have a book coming out. It's called Brave Enough to Be Broken, and it's all about embracing pain and finding hope and healing. And I knew that I had to do something like this for the book. That for those of you that pre-ordered and supported the book, I needed to just give you a little bit more from me. You know, a book is amazing and words are amazing, and I've written every single word, dot, comma, period, exclamation point in the book. And it's all from me, but I just thought there was something different about doing this. And this docuseries is just all around a story, my story. And here in episode 1, we're gonna unpack what my life was like from 0, right, like newborn, to 5 years old. And then we're just gonna keep crunching it out. We have 6 episodes, 30 years of living, and we're just gonna crunch out year by year by year. So I think the first and most important thing that you need to know about me is I'm from Houston, Texas, okay? The home of the Shipley's Donuts, the Astros, the Rockets, which we used to love the Rockets when they were on fire, okay? Shout out. The Texans, man, I'm just like really into it right now because Houston's one of the best cities in the world. Don't judge me, okay? Don't leave any comments. And I grew up in a middle-class neighborhood with my family. It was me and my mom and my dad, and then I had 3 stepbrothers. My 2 oldest brothers were from two relationships that my dad had in the past, and my mom had a son. And then my dad was like, nah, I'm done. No more kids. We've got 3 boys. Let it go. And my mom was determined, honey, to have another child. She had been in a really abusive marriage, very physically abusive, with my brother's dad, and got out, got a divorce, moved from Louisiana to Texas, and married my dad. And she's like, oh no, you gonna give me a kid, okay? And lo and behold, she gets pregnant and she has a little girl named Tony, but they didn't name me Tony. I decided to go with Tony because what they did name me was Antoinette Je t'aime McCarthy. For some of you, you're like, that's your name? That is my name, okay? It was either Antoinette or Angelica, okay? Because we didn't want Angelica, okay? Sis, I don't know what was happening. But Antoinette Je t'aime. It means, Anthony, I love you. And that's my dad. And when I was 0 years old, a newborn, it's funny because when my mom was giving birth, right from the beginning, there was opposition. As I was coming into the world, the umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck twice. And I was suffocating and I was dying. And for some reason, the doctors didn't notice it, but my dad did. And he said, wait. Everybody just wait. The cord's wrapped around her neck, and they caught it just in time. And here enters Tony into the world. That's my birth story. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is pretty normal. Birthdays, blended family dynamics, parties. Oh my gosh, I still remember my first birthday party was Barney themed. My goodness, okay? My mom had a cute little dress on. It was super fun. My second birthday was at McDonald's. McDonald's was it, okay? Don't hate on McDonald's now. We don't eat it now, but McDonald's was it. And it was just a regular childhood. I remember getting up on Saturday mornings and my mom making us all clean, but my brothers had to clean more because they were way older than me. So I was just spoiled and my brothers hated it. And my parents broke all the rules for me. And I would get up on Saturday mornings, I would run to my mom and dad's room and they would say, go get the boys up. And I would come running around the corner and I'd bang on my brother's room door and I'd be like, boys, get up. And my dad still jokes about it to this day. So yeah, it was just a normal childhood. And what's interesting is that for a lot of us, 0 to 5, it's just adolescence, right? It's just our toddlerhood, our childhood. It's these fond, small little memories of family and growing up and learning to crawl and walk. And for some of us that have really hard pasts, it's really not even about the childhood that you lived, but the one that came before you. I think a hard part of my story is the stories of my parents. My dad grew up on a huge farm, and he had 6 brothers and sisters, but his dad was, an aggressive man, big old hands. And, there wasn't a lot of nurturing and love. There was hard work, and there was discipline and strictness. And when you are parented by that, you pass that down. And so I think it took a lot for my parents, specifically my dad, to find what it meant to be a nurturer, someone that really loved their kids in a way that they actually knew it, like outward love, expressive love. I don't remember, because I was like 3 and 4 and 5, but I remember pictures of my dad pulling me around the house on a rug and having fun and squeezing my little cheeks. But in the rest of the years of my life, I don't think he expressed it as much. And so I really didn't know. For my mom, she grew up with a big family as well, 6 brothers and sisters. But she wasn't close to her father at all. She barely knew him. He passed away in a car accident. He was a drinker, alcoholic, all the things. And then she married a really abusive man. And I think the hard part about that is that when you have a parent that's been abused and without access to healing, they leak. They leak on you. And my mom leaked on me and my dad and this new marriage that she had. Because what you don't heal, you will perpetuate. What's interesting about generational cycles and negativity passed down is when you start to think about the woman, at least, you think about my grandmother who carried my mother. Well, when my grandmother was pregnant with my mom, as a little infant in the womb, as a fetus, had all of the ovaries that she would ever have. She would have all the eggs that she would ever had. All of her female reproductive system while she was in my grandmother's womb was already built inside of her, which means that I was inside of my mom as she was inside of my grandmother. And that means that whatever my grandmother experienced while she was pregnant with my mom affected me as a little egg as well. And when my mom was pregnant with me, I had my daughter Dylan inside of me. And so the abuse that she endured was passed down to me, and the effects of it was passed down to Dylan. And we don't think about those types of things and those chemical imbalances and the spiritual warfare that comes with that. But it's very, very real. And you'll see a little later on in my story how that impacted me and how surprisingly and weirdly the stories kind of mesh together. I think if there was one thing that I would want you to know about this episode, I think it would be that God knew you. He knew you and he shaped you before you were in your mother's womb. And one of the things that's provided so much healing to me is knowing that God knew. And on one end, it's scary because you think that, well, if God knew my story, why didn't he change it, make it better, make it less painful? Well, I think God is bigger than that. He knew the pain that we'd endure and the sin that would come against us, but he also knew the redemption and the restoration and the goodness that would come from even, 10, 20 years before the redemption actually manifested into the world. For me, when I look at little bitty Toni dancing and singing and frilly little dresses that my mom put me in, I think that it reminds me of why I love Broken Crayons, why I have this fun, jovial spirit, because I came into the world with that. I came into the world with this zeal. My parents told me all the time, this laughter, this fun, this little girl that wanted to perform and love people really well. Somewhere along the way, I lost that. But after healing, I found it again. And so I take great joy now looking back at 0 to 5-year-old Toni and saying, welcome back, sweet girl. And welcome back. You went through some really hard things. But come and enjoy life again. And you can look at the world with that same awe and wonder that you had when you came into the world. Yeah.